This video is going to be a little bit different than the normal ones are. We've got some heavy equipment action and some rock hounding kind of combined together. They sort of, at least for me, go hand in hand most of the time. So let's get into it. It's a lot easier to find rocks when they're already washed off. Let's see if we can find a few more. That's a pretty nice one there. Another smaller guy there. Some jasper looking stuff here. Another agate there. Hands are already full. We got to drop them off in the bucket. I saw a couple more when I walked over here. Here's one. Yeah, that's nice. There's another one right down in here somewhere. That's kind of neat looking. Like I said, it's a lot easier. You don't hardly even have to try, especially on a rainy day like today. They've already been washed at the plant, and now the rain's washing them off some more, so works out pretty good. normally I would get up close to the stockpile to look for some rock too, but I'm sitting probably more than 10 feet off the ground right now in this machine, and it is significantly taller than I am, and it's pretty slidey, so we're not going to get real close to the toe of that slope today. I don't really feel like getting buried under a bunch of river bar. But so far we found some pretty nice rocks. I'm looking forward to getting them back to the house and getting them washed off. We'll have to check them out after we do that. This is also the first time I've run a joystick controlled loader, believe it or not. This is an 844. I've ran an 824 and probably put 1,500 hours on a machine like that, but it's actually pretty slick. I much prefer the joystick turning right and left, and forward and reverse are down here by your fingers. That's your two lever action. It's not bad. The heater works real good too, because it is nasty and cold and rainy today, so we're definitely happy to be in the cab. There we go, that's what we were after. I want that big chunk to fall down so it's not super sketchy and up way high like that, but I don't want to get this loader too tippy. It does have a big old counterweight on it, so you'll rub the rear end of it on the ground before you tip over, but you never know how some of that rock is going to want to move around, and this is probably a, I don't know, 80,000 pound loader at least, but there's a lot more weight in that pile that could come down, and I don't want to mess with it too much if I don't have to. This stuff has been so saturated with water for, you know, since the summertime, that it's just kind of turned back into rock solid material, so it doesn't break off quite as well as you'd like it to, but it'll all come down eventually. Just hopefully it comes down the way that I want it to and not on accident while I'm underneath it. like this. Right now it's not too terribly bad, but we've had issues at the plant up the hill where it really, oh yeah, there we go. There's a bunch that slid down. Heck yeah. We have issues with a lot of this stuff coming off the belts and piling up and pushing things around in places they don't need to be. So if you look closely, let's see, you can kind of see up close to the pile, I've raised it up some. That's just so that I don't freaking slop all that muck into what I'm loading into the truck to stockpile at the plant. So the operator this morning and yesterday told me that the material's good and it wasn't piling up, so hopefully we can continue to be sending them some good stuff. Another thing to keep in mind with big giant stockpiles like this, you know, this is all relatively round material and it's not really used for compaction. Back in the day it was, but not so much anymore. But it does get packed. I mean, there's so much weight sitting on that pile that it'll just kind of pack itself. So if you're going to park by the pile, park farther away from the pile so that if it does slide off, it won't engulf your machine. So, which is probably just common sense. You look at something that tall and you can see stuff falling off, it's kind of like, I might want to stay away from that. But sometimes people are a little special, so you have to give reminders out. It's not the prettiest, but we've got the rock off the road, so that's good. Plenty of room to get by here. Hopefully that'll be all right. The pavement kind of widens out back here a little bit, so hopefully that'll work out just fine. Let's see if we can find a few more rocks. And they're pretty muddy. I was hoping we'd get a good rain and wash some of this stuff off, but it hasn't happened just yet. So we'll see if there's anything that we can see out of here. Here's a neat looking green one. Yeah, I don't know. this here? Huh. Some of these, if they're no good, they could just go in the yard because they look kind of cool. We got plenty of room for that, so if we find any duds, that's what'll happen to them. Oh, there's one. Hey. A nice little guy there. I bet that'll look real cool when it gets washed off. What's this one here? Maybe. Sometimes these ones look kind of neat after you cut them open, so that's sort of what I'm hoping for. Now, if the sun's going to come out, we might be able to see some of these a little better. Ooh, yeah, heck yeah. Look at that. That is a pretty big agate right there. Heck yeah. That's awesome. That's one of the biggest ones I've found out here in a while. I don't have too much time. Hopefully I don't slide down the pile. I don't have too much time to fiddle around and look for rocks because I do have a job to do. All right, well, not very many, but that's pretty cool. that's a big red rock. Huh. Well, that's wood. Pretty sure that's petrified wood. I'll have to get that cleaned off. Nice. That's what we wanted, was all that stuff to fall down. Let's try looking on a smaller pile. These ones are starting to get a little bit more clean, so we'll scope them out before we push them around in the mud. That's kind of neat looking. That's nice. Huh. Not bad. Look kind of neat if it gets cut. That almost looks like wood. It's hard to tell with all the mud on it. Oh, there we go. That's a pretty decent sized chunk of petrified wood. Right on. It's not too bad. Not bad at all. neat. Got some cool colors in it. It's kind of neat. That's cool looking too. Nice. That's what we're going to do. Let's try looking on a smaller pile. These ones are starting to get a little bit more clean, so we'll scope them out before we push them around in the mud. That's kind of neat looking. That's nice. Huh. Not bad. Look kind of neat if it gets cut. That almost looks like wood. It's hard to tell with all the mud on it. Oh, there we go. That's a pretty decent sized chunk of petrified wood. Right on. It's not too bad. Not bad at all. Not bad. Covered in mud, but it'll wash off nice. The sun kind of went to hide behind the clouds, so it's making it a little harder to see everything. Kind of funny looking. Maybe when we wash it off. That might be one. Chalcedony at least. It's got a little bit on there. Huh. The way I look for these rocks when they're covered in mud is basically just anything that catches my eye. You might get a little dirty, but you never know. All right, now we're back at the house. We got all of our rocks washed off. Let's take a look and see what we've got. We've got some really cool looking stuff I'm super stoked about. And here's the spread. We got the whole workbench full up with them. And honestly, these are really mostly just from one day of looking. It was only probably an hour, if that, spent on that day, and that was the rainier day that I was loading trucks and running around the rock pile, because the next couple days after that it was really muddy and it didn't rain. So the rocks that were coming down from the plant, we were just stockpiling them down there. As you saw, pretty much everything from here all the way over to here was all stuff that I got on the first day. The second day, honestly, I didn't really even look. I think I found maybe 5 or 6. And then the third day, you get what you see on the purple towel here. And I do want to highlight a couple of these. Number one being this chunk of petrified wood, which is just awesome. You can even see the black in there already. Usually when you cut wood open, it's got a really, really nice black color in it. And this is a pretty decent sized chunk, and it's relatively uniform in shape all the way around. And that's pretty cool. This is probably going to be too big for me to cut with the saw that I currently have, so it's going to get set aside in our storage area, which I will show a little bit later on. But here's some more petrified wood. And this one's really neat too. I mean, it's pretty well busted already, and you can really see that nice black on the inside. And the wood chunks, I mean, it looks like the wood is almost flaking off. Really interesting. But this one might be one that I would want to, you know, maybe cut a flat edge on this, you know, going this way, and then polish that. That might be pretty interesting. Another few chunks of stuff that kind of look like petrified wood. This one's really, really dark. You can just barely see the grains in there. Really, really interesting how this one looks compared to most of the others that I normally find in my area. And got this big chunky guy here. It's got all this pocket of crystal that kind of goes around the whole thing. Widens out on this side. You've got a little island right here of kind of your host rock, and then a bigger chunk of it over here, but it actually glows pretty nice in the light. This thing looks kind of like a dragon egg. Really cool. This is another one that might be a little too big for my saw. A couple others. Here's a carnelian. Got that really nice red glow on there. Super cool. And this is with no polish, no nothing. All it did was get a little bit of a bath. Here's another kind of waterline or banded agate. More of a yellow color. And that looks super duper awesome too. Super cool. Here's an interesting rock. I think I mentioned it in the video when I picked it up. Now that it's all cleaned off, you can really see those colors pop. It's got red and yellow, kind of lighter yellow and darker yellow, and some gray and black in there. Really interesting looking. I think this is a big chunk of yellow jasper. My geology knowledge and rock naming knowledge really isn't up to par compared to how many rocks I actually have and how much time I spend with them. But I know we have quite a bit of yellow jasper in my area, at least where we mine, and it's got that really smooth, almost glossy, polished looking appearance to it, like a lot of jasper has. So another chunk that I would really like to cut, but yet again is too big for my saw. Here we've got a bunch of red rocks. I don't think all of these are red jasper, but ones like this one, again, it's got that really kind of glossy look to it. That one might be. Some of these ones, like, you know, this, definitely probably not these ones that have a lot more dimples and kind of feel a lot more chalky. But this one potentially might be too. It's got chalcedony veins running through it. And again, my geology knowledge isn't super high, so you know, you can only, some of the rock identifier apps there are, you take pictures of them and it tells you an agate is like some kind of jade or something like that, which I don't know how accurate those are. So, but this one too, this one looks really neat. It's not super glossy, but it's almost got some kind of weird looking film over the top of it. This one would be really cool to cut open. I could actually cut this one with the saw that I have now, so we might try that. This one here's just got a really strange looking pattern on it, which is why I picked it up. It's already really smooth, kind of that matte color. It's got a little different colored island on the top of it, but very smooth. It's definitely had spent a lot of time tumbling around in the river for sure. Another interesting one. This one's got all sorts of watermarks or lines in it all over both sides. We'll put that in the too big to cut currently pile. And we've got this chunk here. I think this is just straight up chalcedony. I'm not sure. I don't know, because you hold it up into the light and, you know, I'm not really getting anything through that. maybe on the edges, but I think that might just be the reflection off the rock itself, because it is pretty smooth. But it's really interesting. And something that I've noticed before, a lot of these rocks, except for the obvious, you know, red ones or yellow ones, you know, those ones really stand out against a lot of the normal gray and kind of darker colored river rocks that you see. But when it's cloudy out and there's no sunlight, for me at least, I've noticed that I find more lighter colored agates. You don't, unless you catch them just right in the light, like this carnelian that I found, it's really difficult to see them a lot of the time. And especially if they've already been screened and they're already in a pile, they've kind of got some mud and some schmutz on them. I find that the lighter colored ones, the yellow ones, and especially like white ones, like whiter rocks, are a lot easier to pick out for some reason. I don't know if it's just because of the contrast against the other rocks, but without the sunlight, it's really difficult to tell. And on that note, the coolest one that I found, in my opinion, is a white agate. The sun just happened to come out at the right time, and I even say it earlier in the video. And it's this guy right here. I mean, that is awesome. Here's my hand for scale. I mean, that's a pretty, especially for around here, the river rock that we mine and the spot that we mine it out of, this is a pretty decent sized agate. Most of the time they've been kind of destroyed by the time they get to this point. You can even see a little bit of crystal in here. We'll hold this up to the light, and it just glows like crazy. That is super cool. And mind you, this is still pretty dirty. You can see all the black chunks and junk in it. So it's probably going to get a nice toothbrush scrubbing. But this one is pretty neat. Pretty decent size. I was super stoked when I found this, and that'll be another one. That one might just be a windowsill rock. I would like to do something to that, maybe cut parts of it off and you know, polish some of the bits here and there. So let's get these put in their designated storage areas. So my way of organizing these rocks is really complicated, so just bear with me for a little bit. Basically what we've got going on here is a pile of rocks that were too big for me to cut with my saw, and also ones that I want to cut later. So what we're going to do is very gently kind of do something like that. Use the good old foot rake, push them around just a hair, and there you go. Got a nice organized pile of rocks. Easy to see what you got. Don't have to try very hard. I know it's really complicated. Like I said, another complicated task here. We're gonna start a new spot. Actually, we're gonna take these two little itty bitty flat ones out and put them over here. Lay them down right there. We'll take these ones and we'll put them here. Again, we'll use the foot rake. Really easy to see. Looks halfway decently cute, which is always a plus. And just like that, we'll start a new area for rocks that I don't really want to tumble or cut or polish in any way, but they look pretty cool. And they're added as decoration. So yeah, pretty complicated, I know. Nice thing about rocks is that they were either underground in a river or just outside for who knows how many years. So it ain't gonna hurt them one bit to be stored outside at all. Appreciate you guys watching. If you like the heavy equipment stuff or the rock stuff or both, let me know, because that's predominantly what I spend my time doing. So we appreciate you, and we'll hopefully see you soon on the next one.